Hello, I'm George Middleton. Get ready for a great show.
Black space is a place for us.
Real people with real issues.
Discussing real topics.
Black space.
A safe space for our community.
All right. I'm George Middleton, your host this evening on this podcast episode of Black Space Live. The topic of our discussion today, we are going to examine part 2 of the question, is marriage a bad deal for men? I would like to take this time briefly to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. In other words, don't be selfish with this content. Share the love. You can catch Black Space Live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and Spotify. And you can catch us on Anchor FM, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeart Radio. So we are to have two panelists for today. Both of them are very exciting. However, one is still coming in hot from a flight, so he's probably still in midair. I hope he's running a video of him running through the airways trying to get to the show. But meanwhile, we still have a very hot, beautiful, exciting, and intelligent panelist who I'm going to let her reintroduce herself to the watchers and listeners. Let them know who you are, Zuri.
Hey everybody, I'm Zuri, and I'm ready to start the show.
Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off, and I had Zuri. I'm not sure if you were able to follow some of the links I posted in our chat room over the last few weeks, but I'll be referring to some of those to add to the discussion.
Okay.
But where we left off was with this concept called toxic masculinity. Have you ever heard of that term?
All the time.
What is your understanding of that concept of toxic masculinity? Wait, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Not toxic masculinity. Excuse me.
Oh.
Toxic femininity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we left off at, because there was a listener in the chat room who had brought that up, and it really caught Penny's attention, and I hope he's able to make it, because that one really.
I have to say.
Yeah, Penny always, he's always with an opinion, but it was toxic femininity.
Okay.
Was the have you heard? Are you familiar with that concept?
I'm familiar with that concept as well.
What do you know? What's your understanding of toxic femininity?
In my opinion, or what?
Yeah, let's take your perspective. Your perspective is more important than anybody else's.
To me, toxic femininity would be women that are very emasculating to men. Okay. Women that don't take accountability for their actions and taking accountability for their life. That would be the main thing that I always would associate with it. Just number one, not being accountable makes you toxic in itself, because you'll never realize when you're wrong. To me, toxic femininity is also manipulation. There's like so many things that can go with it that you could just see every day. What's your definition of it?
Well, it was a relatively new term to me.
Mm-hmm.
As well, toxic masculinity is I guess obviously the opposite of toxic femininity. But toxic femininity, I guess I'm not so much a labels person.
Yeah, that's why I say it's hard to put words
Mm-hmm.
on labels. So I understand that. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
However, I would say that in a larger scale, on a broader scale, I would say that our relationships are toxic to begin with.
You said our relationships.
Our relationships are toxic to begin with, and the reason I say that is the roles have been blurred. There's a transition right now culturally about what are healthy relationships today. Statistically speaking, traditional marriages are on the decline. You look at the advent of technology and social media, we have more relationships with our devices than we do with each other.
True.
You know, anywhere you go, the person may have his betrothed next to him, but he's got his device or her device right here in front of him. And whether it's in dinner, at movies, family gatherings, social gatherings, that cell phone, that device is right there at all times. Now, you look considerably younger than me. So tell me, what is the cultural attitude of your generation about how the integration of IT, of cell phones, of digital, social media within social contexts?
What do you mean by as in social context?
Well, you know, you go to dinner and you sit down. What are the rules? What's the etiquette?
I don't think too many people even have etiquette rules when it even comes to the cell phone. It's like you said, it's always with you. It's a part of you, basically.
Yes.
So I don't think most people don't even put rules to it. Because at any given moment, we pick it up, we look at it, roll over, wake up, look at it, walk around all day long looking at it, socializing, and now you can FaceTime people and speak with them at the same time. But and also at the same note, I always say like times have changed, like things have changed from when you grew up with your parents till now. Things have changed from when I was a child till now. And things will change probably in the next 5 to 10 years from now. So I just go with the times.
Yes. And I think the reason I refer to just the toxicity of relationships is just the dynamic that there just doesn't seem to be the etiquette anymore. There's no cell phone etiquette. There's no female etiquette. There's no male etiquette. And I'm coming from an old school perspective, because where I came from, my generation, this was black, and this was white.
Mm-hmm.
Now everything is gray.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article. There's a couple links I posted in our chat room, and the first of them was why do women choose the bad guys over the good guys? Did you happen to catch that?
I think I did, but I didn't read it, but I can still, go off of it.
So his theme was basically that today's woman is not ready for the good guy. And that her primary issue, and I think this kind of gets into part of the definition or the meaning of toxic toxic feminism.
Mhm.
That in terms of being a real man, today's woman is not really geared towards handling that type of man. The man who takes control, who is willing to say what needs to be said. It's not a popularity contest. He's not concerned with always being liked, but doing it the right way for the good of his family.
Mhm.
How does that strike you? That theme of thought?
I agree with what you just said. I believe it has. Things have changed, and I don't think women are ready, but at the same aspect, all men aren't ready as well. So I just can't say that it's all the women. But since we're just speaking on the women, that yeah, I would agree. Everyone thinks that they can do it on their own. And like I saw some things today, it's like it's a fad to be out here being a single mom with several children from different fathers. If you know who they are, they're not. Or it's like everybody glorifies being ratchet. Nobody glorifies being a woman anymore. And I
And
think, and even the sad part is, even when you're talking about generations, now I don't think you can look at the older women and they're just as bad as, I mean, you see where the young girls are getting it from. The older women are just walking around have been setting the examples. So it's
and,
kind of intermingled in the generations. Like the
and
older
when
ones think they're in their 30s and 20s still.
and when you say older, what age group are you referring to?
50s, 60s.
Okay, so you see
I'm
six.
42.
Okay,
So,
there may be something to that. Um,
yes.
the I want to make the difference that there is a difference between immaturity and ignorance of just the roles. There are people that are aware and knowledgeable of the roles, but they're not mature enough to handle or step into that role. I'm seeing a generation that's not even aware that the roles exist. How does that strike you?
It's true. I think they know it exists, but that's not what they want. And I don't even want to give a percentage, but you know, a lot of us grow up in broken homes
Mm-hmm.
where that's all you see. And then your mom, all her friends are single, you know, and the cycle just continues. And you don't know something if you've never really seen it or been surrounded by it, or if you only see it on TV.
Okay. One of the roles. This may seem a little off topic, but I think it's connected. One of the roles that I serve in is as a mentor.
Okay.
So I work in a school district for a couple of schools where we provide mentorship services to fourth through sixth grade class students,
Mhm.
male and female.
Oh, cool.
So this year has been pretty unique because it seems like the culture of this particular student population in all the schools I'm serving in, I'm seeing something different that I've never seen before. And it's along the lines of our discussion. It's like they don't know what they don't know. There's a general level of disrespect in their culture, but it's not intentional. It's out of ignorance. Again, I always refer to my upbringing. When I came up, when an adult spoke, we listened.
Mhm.
Uh, when an adult spoke, It was not up for debate. When an adult spoke, it was not a discussion. It was yes, ma'am, yes, sir. That is completely obliterated in this generation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it is. I grew up, like you said, when the parents spoke, you didn't say anything, but I think that's part of the problem as well, because the adults aren't always right, and don't debate something that you know is wrong in your heart and doesn't even sit well with you, and you know your parents are dead wrong and you see a pattern, but you can't speak on it. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the respect, I think a lot of the times, I mean, you can't always blame the parent, but as children that young, they're getting it from somewhere.
Right.
And like they always say, majority of the time it starts at home. Especially to like a teenage years or adolescent years, a little different, but the age group that you're talking about, they're seeing it from somewhere.
Right. And most of them are coming up in single parent homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not getting the basics in that aspect of your development stage, by the time you get to the level of relationship stage,
Mm-hmm.
you're just totally gone. So how do you even reintroduce a concept that culturally these children are totally foreign to?
I think at young ages, we really should, when the children are that young, if they grow up in that kind of environment, I think they need to be mentored or also be able to see an environment that exists outside of what's going on in their home or their immediate environment, whether it's school, their friend's house, see the other side of the coin of things. A lot of people, even in childhood, never, and even as adults, a lot of people don't even know outside their zip code. They like stay there, never venture out and get to see what the world is truly like, because the world is not just like the city that you reside in.
And I think more particular to this theme of our topic of our discussion today, our young ladies are not in environments at the development stages of their life where they have early experiences of what a healthy male is. Most of our young ladies do not have a history of healthy experiences with men in their lives
Very true.
as they're growing up.
Very true.
And
a lot of times, if they have, it's been a bad experience.
Very bad. And so as mentors, when we come in and we are trying to help develop these young people, men and boys and girls, it's interesting to watch the girls' response to myself and to some of the other male mentors. We have female mentors as well. And it's very, very, for a significant percentage of them, it's a culture shock. It's like they just do not know how to handle a man saying no. A man saying that is not appropriate. A man saying correct yourself. That is, at that stage, they're just, again, in my day, it didn't matter if the adult was male or female. We just did it. But
regardless, right?
Regardless. But this generation today, they operate as if they have the option to look at you sideways. I mean, back in the day, again, if we even looked at an adult sideways, that was enough to get
right. Slap something.
Something was you knew better. You didn't have to
keep those words to yourself till you get in the room by yourself and nobody hear you, and don't even let them hear you utter anything under your breath.
And so now we have a generation of young ladies and young men, but focusing on the ladies right now, who will look at you, roll their eyes, and they're not paying not nary a bill, ain't buying none of their clothes, don't have a driver's license. and looking at you like you crazy.
Yes, there's no there's no man, like you said, there's no father in the home telling them what to do or correcting them, holding them accountable for their actions, their emotions, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they don't. So of course, if you don't see your mom listening to a man, what makes you think that you need to? And then on top of that, you don't. A lot of times you don't know what these children see growing up in single homes.
Right,
Sometimes,
right.
like you never know when your child's watching for real. And there's a lot of adults that I talk to now, and one of my male friends, I asked him something about his mom one day, and he told me, he was like, I grew up with the line of, excuse my language. He says, excuse my language, but he was like, he grew up with the line of hoes. And I was like, he said, and that's to this day why he does not trust women. Because he was like, I saw my mom cheat. I saw my aunties and them cheat, bring suitcases over and just dog men out, and I guess whatever was going on. And I was like, my mouth dropped when he told me that, because I was like, oh wow. And like no shame to even just say like, that's my mom, that's my sister, to my aunties.
Yeah.
So it just lets me further know that they've seen a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have been exposed to, you know. So that's toxic in itself. So, and nobody's holding them accountable even to their children.
They've seen a lot before their young minds can even embrace the concepts of what they've seen.
Yes, to me, I feel like when you're supposed to be getting nurtured by your mom, seeing her being a good wife. I mean, just not even being a good woman for herself, and not, it's just, that's like a lot of grounds to cover. Because I've witnessed it and I've seen it before, not me personally growing up, but as an adult. And it's just like, it's disheartening, even when you see how they talk to their children. And the children will look all sad and everything. It's disheartening.
Mm-hmm. Now the second link, let me read. This is off of, are you familiar with Michael Baisden?
Yeah.
Yes.
I used to listen to his radio show all the time.
Yeah, very intelligent character. I love his reasoning. I don't agree with everything, but I mean, I love his approach. So let me read this commentary by Michael Baisden. The title of it is Men Say They Want a Successful Woman, but do they really? Let's keep it real. Generally speaking, men who are accomplished aren't attracted to women who are ambitious. They say they are, but if you ask most successful women, that's not their experience. Men tend to choose women who compliment them, not those who challenge them. When you're working 24/7 to afford that comfortable lifestyle, it's nearly impossible to establish a relationship with a woman who is hustling just like you are, which is why an increasing number of successful women are finding themselves involved with men who are less educated, or at least less well off economically. In fact, more men are moving into the homes of women and playing the role of the supportive partner, while the woman brings home most of the bacon. And that's cool if that works for you. But women can't have the standard of a 6 or 7 figure man and expect him to adapt to her busy lifestyle. It's probably not going to happen. It should be no surprise that accomplished men end up dating the waitress, babysitter, or the entrepreneurial woman who is traditional minded and has no problem putting her man first. The one thing that men with money insist on is being a priority, not something you fit in your schedule. Our egos can't handle it. Successful men aren't motivated by a woman's income, degrees, or her success. What's important to them is her domestic skills, her figure, her sexual adventurousness, and her availability. And furthermore, her willingness to accept a certain degree of philandering. For the professional woman who is busy, demands monogamy, and puts her family first, much respect is given to her. But she will rarely be the first choice of the men she's most compatible with intellectually and financially. It's one hell of a paradox, isn't it? Michael Baisden. That's my opinion. What do you think? Wow, he said a lot here, didn't
Yeah, he did.
he? So where do you want to start?
You could go ahead first, and that's a lot. He said a lot.
Okay. So, well, I like to ask questions first. So, as a woman, what is your gut reaction to hearing the totality of his message?
It's true. I'm not going to say that I agree with everything because that was a long read, but majority of what he's saying is true. I agree with him.
All right, let's break it down then.
Yeah, let's break it down piece by piece.
Let's break it down. Yeah.
Break it down.
So, statistically speaking, more men are moving into the homes of women and playing the role of the supportive partner, while the woman brings home most of the bacon. And that's cool if that works for you. Now, I think that is the platform for some of the relationship issues that contribute to this topic. Is marriage a bad deal for men? Because that particular excerpt shows the imbalance or the flip of what is typically expected in a traditional relationship.
Right. I feel like even when you said the men moving into the women's home, I want to say, are those men? I'm sorry.
Right.
Like most men are going to have their own house, everything before they move in. Though a lot of men will sleep in a car before they move in with a woman and let her be the sole provider of him. No, a lot of men that wouldn't even sit right with them, at least from what I see and what I know. So, as women, we like to confuse boys with men because even if you talk to women, sometimes they'll call their 12-year-old son, oh, my man, or he's a man. I'm like, hold on, he's only like 12 or 13. Why are you even saying he's a man? Or women will refer to young girls if they develop fast. Oh, she looks like a grown woman, or she's a grown woman. And I was like, no, like, why do you guys do these things? They're still in their age group. That's still a young girl, and that's still a young man, young boy. They're adolescents. That doesn't make him a man, because best believe if there was a father in the house, those words wouldn't even be spoken. So I think I always feel like sometimes we have to get the narrative right when we're talking about it, because a lot of that stuff is just coming from a set group of women that think like that, because some women won't even date a man that thinks about moving in with them and can't take care of himself. And I think a part of it kind of comes from back to, again, growing up with single moms. A lot of women are looking for characteristics of a father in a man instead of somebody that already that already knows how to be a man, or they want to raise him into being something so they can take, oh, I did this,
So today's working woman, today's accomplished woman, I think intellectually they say that they're not looking at a man for his income. But here's a question to really meditate on. Can a woman really respect a man that she is making more money than? If she is the breadwinner of the household, can today's woman really respect her man who's not performing at that level?
Today's woman, I would say no, but I would say there's still a lot of women out there that can and do the same thing, make more
So
than their
let's
husband and still
so
respect.
so let's stick on today's woman. Why do you say today's woman? You would say no.
Because a lot of women today don't think that they need men anymore, not to raise children, not to do anything, not to protect them. A lot of them we want to be equal to men, which is crazy to me, but you know, so it's like you said, it's very off. The roles have been switched to where a lot of women don't want to raise families. They don't want to have children, or they do want to have children but don't want to be married.
So there's a lesser interest in today's woman for the traditional relationship, for the married relationship.
I believe so. I believe so, because a lot of people, and a lot of it I think has to even do with social media. They believe everybody's living that same life that reality stars and stuff are really living, and that's not them. That's fake reality. It's entertainment.
Does today's woman, do they still feel the same urge and this and importance for having children?
That's a hard one. I don't think so. I think they want to have children, but we love the idea of it, but everything that comes along with it, that's when the problem starts occurring. And we're honestly not built to take care of children by ourselves. They've did studies before where if a woman works a full-time job and comes home and still cook, cleaned, and has to deal with the children, she's more tired, she gets more stressed before a man does. A man can work a hard job, still come home, play with his children, and not be as stressed and still have energy.
Is today's woman conducting, are they conducting themselves in a way where they're having less children?
No. That's
So
why I
what,
said it's
yeah. So where's the disconnect? Something's missing here. They from the description
no
and so forth.
guidance.
Yeah.
No guidance. A lot of us don't have any guidance and still to this day don't know how to use discernment. And then if we keep making the same bad decisions, we don't want to take accountability for it.
That's a huge word.
Or ego or our pride gets in the way of a lot of things.
So let me ask you this. You have as a woman a unique perspective that I would say most women do not share. What allowed you or contributes to your kind of walking the road less traveled as it pertains to the woman experience?
I think a lot of it contributes to my childhood growing up, and then a lot of things when I joined the military, it opened my eyes up to a lot of things that I wasn't exposed to. I kind of knew about it, but when it's actually in your face and you're like, this is jaw dropping. People do this, and you know that you don't act in those manners or ways. It's shocking. And I think I'm just a genuine person. And when I hear people take stories, and actually, no, let's go back from a very young age, my father taught me to take accountability for our actions from the get go. If we got in trouble, he didn't want to hear what our friends had to do with it. What was your part in it?
Right.
I don't want to hear nothing about your friends. My dad didn't believe in peer pressure.
Mm. Mm.
So I think a lot of it has to do with that. And my mom, how she was just nurturing, and she always just told us, and my mom's a very beautiful woman. She was just like, there's beautiful women come a dime a dozen. So what separates you from the rest of the women? And that kind of always stuck with me as well. And my parents were always very realistic. My dad didn't sugarcoat anything with us.
Mm.
So, like I said, I've always been taking accountability for my actions, regardless if I wanted to or not. It always still always boils down back to me.
And how does that normally? What kind of responses does that normally engender in your peers, in your female peers?
Some of them, no, but a lot of them I won't. When I do kind of explain it, if they personally know me, they know that I'm really a genuine person, But a lot of the ones that don't know me, if they're on the internet, they'll be like, "Oh, you're a pick me. Why don't you just save the man?" Just try to get dragged through the mud. But I'm not going to change my opinion. Like, it all still boils down back to the woman. And yeah, everything's not always the woman's fault, but a lot of things we forget the parts that we play in things. You want to always put the blame on somebody else, but like, no, you played a part in it as well. And I always tell people you play a part in it, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So either way it goes, you play a part in it.
So the next area that Michael Bazin gets into, he says this: successful men aren't motivated by a woman's income, degrees, or her success. What's important to them is her domestic skills, her figure, her sexual adventurousness, and availability. And furthermore, her willingness to accept a certain degree of philandering. That is a lot. How does that strike you?
When he says the certain degree of philandering, what does he mean? Like for being flirtatious or cheating?
Good question. I would take the worst case scenario, meaning he's going to have other
sexual partners besides her.
Yeah, I would go with the worst case scenario, because there is a statistics that says that that finds that the more income a man makes, the more opportunity there is for him to have sexual relationships. So income is directly correlated with the quantity and variety of sexual opportunities for men. I'm not sure what that is for women. I wonder if that inverse. I'm going to do some research on that. If the inverse is true for women.
Yeah, I would about the income. I agree with him about being the feminine woman. He has his own money. He knows he can take care of her. So those they're not too much worried about that. So that's why I say, like, a man or a man, he's worried about you just being a woman.
Right.
For him. And the part about the philandering, I'm like, to each his own. Some men believe in doing that. And if that's what he believes in, then he has to find some woman that's fine with that. Some women are okay with that. Mm-hmm. And then there's some men that are not going to do it at all. So that's why I said to each its own on that, the last part about philandering.
Gotcha.
But I'm pretty sure you may have to put up more with it. And I agree, because even like how I said, they'll date women that work at Burger King or all that, because they bring a sense of calmness and peace to them. Mm-hmm. You can there's also women that make money and still have a great man and does the same things. But I think at the same time, that woman knows how to tone it down and still be a woman and not trying to take control of everything, just going with the flow and letting it be. and she still stays in her lane, and he allows her to be in her lane and still do her thing at the same time. But you just got to know when. Everybody doesn't know when. And like you said, that goes back to, like you said, when the children or the girls are like, they're shocked when a male tells them no. If you already hear that from growing up as a child, then you know as a girl, okay, people are going to tell me no. You know, I'm going to have to correct my actions, or you know somebody's holding you accountable for your actions when you go out there and act wild and go crazy. Like, okay, if I get pregnant at a young age, you know that's going to disappoint your father. Or if you say certain things or uphold a certain image, it's going to disappoint your father, and you don't want to disappoint your father.
Right.
Because you know he's going to hold you accountable. But when there's nobody telling you, like you said, don't dress like that, don't do this, don't do that, it makes it hard.
Interesting. You know, I listened to you speak, and you know, I would say that the natural maleness in me is, you know, I receive what you're saying in a very resonating way,
Oh, thank you.
in a very appreciative way. Um, the cerebral aspect of me, however, is always thinking objectively and and questioning my natural male tendency to even be receptive to that type of mindset,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess that's a unique condition among men today, is that we kind of have to question our maleness, almost to speak. It's like our natural inclinations aren't necessarily looked upon favorably. And this article really, Michael Baisden's perspective is totally unapologetically male.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
but at the end of the day, always you could be unapologetic about the things that you say. Stand on it if that's what you mean, and
mhm,
that's
mhm.
what you're gonna go by. When
Yeah,
you're dealing with a woman, you're unapologetic with it, so she knows, hey, either I want
yeah,
to deal with this or I'm not going to.
yeah, yeah.
And those, like you said, are the men. They're gonna stand on it. They don't have to sugarcoat it, because hey, if you don't like it, keep it moving.
Hmm.
There's other women out here that will.
So there is another area of research I was doing in the area of why men are less interested in marriage than ever before. And I may have gotten into some of this in part one, but I'll read it again. Sex without commitment is getting to be the norm. Where back in the day, sex was, the availability of sex was heavily tied to a committed relationship, marriage.
Mhm.
This research states that this is one reason people used to marry young. In the days before free love, it was considered healthy to be in a monogamous relationship where a couple would get sexual relief safely and regularly. In addition, the woman received the security of commitment. And there are a lot of studies that show that the number one need for a man is sex, and the number one need for a woman is security. But these days, most women feel sexual freedom is a good thing and exercise their rights. What are your thoughts?
I agree that everything's like lingerie, just like how you said, it's sex with no commitment. Now, back in the day, yes, if you could see women being half naked, you might see them in the videos, or maybe a few of them walking around or in the magazine. But now it's just like in your face. Everything's in your face. Everything's sexual. You have to watch video reels of women working out at the gym in skin tight clothes that outline their whole uh, butt and breast. You know, I'm like, who wants to look at that? You're in the gym. I mean, I understand wearing your spandex and your outfit, but some of this stuff is really getting out of line.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just in the sexual freedom is like nothing's to the imagination anymore. You don't
Right.
even have to guess stuff about women anymore because everything's laid out on the table. What even happened to the days of wanting to be chased by a man? Now women are chasing the men.
Women are doing it. Women
Yeah,
are going. Yeah.
they're up front with everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man doesn't even have to be the man. She's gonna let you know what she wants up front. Like,
Yeah.
no more guessing games. And then, it's just, and I think a lot of it still has with no guidance. And then everything that you see on TV, women rapping, that's all they talking about, getting the bag and mistreating men. You don't need a man for anything. And while majority of the time, those females aren't even living that life. It sells to them. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from. So, and then being probably young and that's all you see in the videos, so you think that, oh, this is what the men like, the rappers, the people that they look up to, how these women look in the videos and stuff. And so that's what they imagine. They think that's what they want. So they go for that look. It's sad, but it's the truth.
Is security still a woman's number one need in this generation?
I think deep down, yes. But the way the culture is, no. That it's set up now, no.
What is the definition of security for a woman?
To me, a definition of security would be like always having someone there for you. If something goes wrong, that you can call your husband or significant other, just having that cover. Your father is not always there to cover you. So just always having that dominant cover, knowing that too much of anything, too much won't happen to you because you have that cover.
In my generation, security was definitely economic, financial, the home, providing that, shelter, being able to eat, warmth, protection. Can women today do enough of that for themselves without a man?
I don't think so. Not even without the protection, because let's be realistic. If something's really going on wrong, say somebody's trying to break in the house or just even a fight, you're not going to you can call your homegirls, but who you really need to be calling? Your male friends. You're not going to, if war really was to break out right now, who's going to protect us? There's only so much protecting if men can really start doing, or they, really start looking at us like, okay, you're going to be equal. And they could be running around here raping us like back in the day. We ain't going to be too much we can do.
Right.
It sounds good that you think you're going to be super strong, and yeah, you might be some men, but it's going to be some men you just can't defeat. They can go longer. They're built for it. You're not built for it. After about a few days of no showers.
Zuri, look who just flew in.
I see. Hey, Penny.
We got Penny.
Hey,
we got Penny in the cockpit.
That's what I was going to say. It looks like it's in the cockpit.
Hey,
I'm literally driving home.
Show us the dashboard, man. How many are you? Are you 30,000 feet in the air?
I wish. I don't know if it'd be safe if I be on here 30,000 feet. I don't know if I get reception up there.
Hey, Penny. Personal question. Are you a member of the Mile High Club?
I am not a member of the Mile High Club.
That's your story, and you stick it to it.
Can I? If I can be honest with y'all, I don't know that I'll ever be a member of the Mile High Club because airplane bathrooms are disgusting. They're disgusting. That's just my personal. In my personal opinion.
They are.
Yeah. That's just a room full of random DNA.
Man, listen. People go in the airplane sometimes. It's like, ugh.
What did you say? Zuri?
I was like, Ugh.
You don't even want to go in there breathing, man. You need a mask, gas mask or something.
Yeah, that's like a porta potty. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes, yes. Penny, were you able to hear much of the conversation at all, or are you just coming in cold?
I literally just I heard none of the conversation. I'm literally just driving from the airport, literally getting in my car, and I tuned in now. I have
Okay.
not heard any of the conversation.
All right. So we're gonna back it up a little bit because I want to get some. We covered a few topics, and
That's
I
what I was
want to.
going to say. Read the last one to him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna hit that. And the last episode, part one, we had broached the topic of toxic femininity,
Ah, yes.
and that really resonated with you. Would you mind sharing with us your um, your understanding, your perception of what toxic femininity actually is?
So, I don't fully understand the concept, but I think we talked about a definition the last time, and I think that me hearing that definition is what kind of triggered my reaction or response. And so I don't recall the definition, but I do recall someone wrote in the chat. They wrote in the chat a definition of toxic. Actually, no, that's where I remember responding because I was abreast
Right,
of the
right.
definition at that point from reading it in the chat. And I'll be honest, at the moment I don't remember his definition, the gentleman's definition of toxic femininity, but it did resonate with me when I heard it.
Okay. So part of it is, well, let me go back to there was a couple of links that I brought in that I put in the chat room from the last conversation. And the first link was titled, "Why Do Women Choose the Bad Guys Over the Good Guys?" And thumbnail, the Reader's Digest version of it, is he spoke of women who were not ready for the real man action. That the actual true man is the one who's not in it for a popularity contest, who's going to make decisions based on what's good for the family, what's good for her, what's good for them, and that the average woman today is not able to handle that type of man. And as a result, they pick guys that don't have that maturity, don't have that big picture outlook for the family. Now, as a result, what that led into, I was sharing with Zuri my experience as a mentor in some of these school systems where we have young ladies and young men as well, but they're coming up mostly in single parent homes, mostly matriarch ridden. And the interesting reactions that I get as a male mentor when I'm correcting a young female, and how at that early stage of development, they're already geared negatively towards that type of male intervention. So it almost starts, this generation, they're almost indoctrinated into having a very negative and toxic perspective of what a man actually is. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with that. That's why you get, so there's a few ways you can look at this. One, when you're in that matriarchal environment, right? There's not a lot of positive conversation around good men. There's not a lot of positive conversation around men in general, you know.
Right.
And the conversation is we're just a tool. You know, we're either a means to an end financially or a means to an end sexually. We're not viewed as an equal. unfortunately, especially in our community, we're not viewed as an equal, we're viewed as less than. And a lot of the matriarchs, project their bad experience from their terrible pickings onto the women. So every man is like that bad man that I chose. And so I'm teaching you, this is the nature of man. This is what I role model through my conversation, through my choices, and the young lady, this is what they see. And so when you do get an interaction from, quote, from good men, it's automatically, they don't move in good faith. It's like, you don't mean me well, you mean me harm. That's why you can't correct, because correction is viewed as an attack. And I mean, there's many different ways, to look at that whole relationship. But it starts from that matriarch that picked terribly, and so therefore now we're going to broad brush the entire community. That's dangerous. That's dangerous because our young women, this is what they're being taught and role modeled, and so it reverberates and it repeats and repeats and repeats. Yep, it repeats and repeats and repeats. And what's crazy is that, number one, she doesn't have the tools for which to pick well, because kids do what they see, not what you tell them, right? And so she saw mom picking that one, and so that's what's normal, so I'm going to pick that. And then, of course, it's a terrible picking, right? And so it just repeats and repeats. Rinse, wash, what is it? Rinse, wash, repeat? Or wash, rinse, repeat? Or lather, rinse, repeat? Whatever the cliche is.
We got you.
And that's extraordinarily toxic. It's toxic for our boys, and it's actually bad for our girls because, again, men who provide the structure can't lead. You can't lead someone that thinks that you are out to harm them. They're not going to listen to you. And as they get older, it gets worse. And good men aren't going to deal with that. They're just not going to, or they're going to think good men are bad because they don't know what good is. If you guys are following me.
Follow. You're right. I agree with you.
So as we were discussing that, Penny, I asked Zuri, do women still want to be married today? Is marriage and children of the same level of importance today? And Zuri, what was your answer to that?
No, that it wasn't.
And that then I asked, are women having less children today? And Zuri, what was your answer to that?
I said there. No, I said, oh yeah, I don't think they're having less children. Doesn't look like, not from what I see. I could be wrong, but I don't see the whole world, but not from what I see.
So Penny, how do you account for that gap where today's woman is not necessarily, according to Zuri, really marriage intentional, and not really necessarily wanting the traditional family, but yet we see more single parent households than ever today. What's going on there?
So I mean, child rearing, especially in the West, is dropped because kids are expensive, and a lot of people are opting out. Even married couples aren't having as many kids. So I think that less kids, that's kind of common, right? That trend is pretty much, that's a Western thing, married or unmarried. But okay. I think that while women are choosing to have less children, I think that the trend of children, the trajectory of children isn't as steep as marriage. I think that more are choosing, or rather less are choosing to be married than are choosing to be parents, if you guys follow.
I see.
That's why you see the trend of, because a lot of women are being taught that men, again, we're not only are we bad, we're not really necessary unless we're providing some kind of financial provision, or let me be frank with y'all, or we're providing the pain. And so
no, you're correct. You're right.
And so a lot of women move that way, and so they'll have a kid because they don't need the man, because they make a good living and they can provide the roof and the food and the and the clothes, and so they just need me for reproduction, right? Nothing else. And so that's why you're seeing that, and because of that, that's why the marriage trend is down steeper than the child trend.
Okay. Which kind of gets into uh, some of the statistics that I was reading before you came on regarding why men are less interested in marriage than ever before. The four bullet points in this article were: one, sex without commitment is getting to be the norm. Two, women are less feminine than ever before, which I find interesting. Three, automation has eased traditional wifely tasks so that men can do them without help. And then four, with a 50% chance of divorce, men can get screwed for life with paying alimony. Thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's one of those points I think is funny. So the fact that men can do household chores like women with automation, I think that's funny because a lot of women will say, and I'm poking the bear here. A lot of women will say being a housewife is difficult. When most of the tasks, the traditional tasks, other than cooking and even cooking, it's a lot of automation. You got dishwashers. I mean, you got Roombas, for goodness sake, that sweep the floor. And so it's not nearly as hard as it used to be, but let women tell it it's extraordinarily difficult, and it's not fair. It's not fair that you go to work. Being a housewife is much more difficult, but I digress from that point. But that two-way street of marriage being a difficult negotiation, one, the bad faith with women viewing men and not thinking that they need us, and then the fact that marriage, the laws are still very antiquated, and it's just not a good deal for men. And so not only are women saying, I don't know if I want this because I don't necessarily need you, men are saying, I don't know if I want that because I lose. If this goes bad, I lose. There's no win for me in this situation. It's more losses than wins, so it's just not a good gamble. And it's sad, but it's a state of reality. And I would also add now on this final point, sex without commitment is the norm. I would argue that I would make a strong argument that sex without commitment is the norm, especially when that commitment is marriage.
Zuri?
He's right. He's right. I can't even disagree. He said a mouthful as well. I agree. I always love to hear the men's point of view and how they feel about it, because I feel like the narrative is changing and a lot of men have grown up on a woman's narrative. That was a lot of manipulation going on, whether it was your mom, your grandma. The narrative has always been beneficial to the woman and not the man. So, and I feel like now men are actually waking up, realizing this, that like, hey, I've been doing this, and that, and I'm still getting screwed in the end, you know? If my mom told me to do this or my grandma told me to do this, not realizing that was your mom and grandma's situation as well. So they have to give you a narrative so you don't judge their situations.
So in this same research, it moves into the next section and asks the question, what can women do to reverse the trend of men not wanting to marry? And here there are 3 bullet points. So this should be interesting. Bullet point number 1, women need to shun premarital sex. Bullet point number 2, women should embrace feminine behavior once again. Bullet point number 3, oh, this is good. Women should take up cooking again. Shun premarital sex, embrace femininity, and get their ass in the kitchen. All right.
You guys think that would change it?
You know what? That first one, That first one alone would change it because sex is easy. It's easy. It's. I mean, let me take a step back. Sex is easy for a certain group of men. Sex is not hard to come by,
You're
and
right.
the women women can participate in that pool more than men because obviously you guys got what you got. Men want it, right? But you guys are y'all picky, right? And so the pool of men that you all are sleeping around with is much smaller than the pool of participation from women. And so to get a man that commits, right? It, in a sense, it's more difficult for y'all as well because it's like, okay, what more do you bring to the table, right? I can get sex. Sex is not difficult. If I'm a guy that's in shape and makes a decent living, I can get sex. And so, what more do you bring to the table, right? And so, if you're trying to negotiate marriage, the I hold most of the cards, although popular culture tells women that they do, and they've been lying to themselves, right? And so, if you take that off the table, you would then be able to vet men that are probably seeking you for more than that, right? To the third point, cooking. That's oh my god, that would just be a overall benefit, period. Just period. And the second, I forgot the second point. George.
Women should embrace feminine behavior once again.
Yes. Okay, and so that kind of builds on the first point. So one, take sex off the table. Two, if you're more feminine, you're going to attract better men that aren't seeking you just for sex. Masculine women that are aggressive and masculine that men aren't going to marry or commit to, men will have sex with that woman because at the end of the day, like as I said earlier, men hold the advantage. Women think that they do. They haven't made up their mind. No, I got the advantage here. I hold the keys. No, men are the hunters. Had this conversation with women many times. You think you have the advantage. Oh no, I got him whipped. You think. So you think. Men will do for sex what they need to do for sex. That's why men lead with money if they need to. That's why men that have no money will get their game, that mouthpiece to a man. Listen to a science to get the goodies. Men are hunters, and I tell women, you will never be able to out hunt a man. And those women are very masculine. You said what?
It's not in our nature to. We try to make it, but it's not our nature.
But they have convinced themselves, oh no, I'm in control of this. I'm in control of my sexuality, and I'm in control. No, you're not. That's why when you're later in age, you carry so much trauma because you've been dealt with. Those hunters, you've been hunted, and you just didn't see the wounds until now.
Wow, Penny.
Wow, but that Penny. Sex piece is powerful. It is powerful. It would take a collective to do that. One or two can't do it. It would take the collective.
You remember that movie, Chirac?
I've never seen that movie.
I think I saw it, but I don't remember.
Well, the theme was the women all gathered together and say, we are going to collectively stop having relations with our men until they govern themselves accordingly. I think it was a Spike Lee joint. But that was a really interesting movie based on the concept of women collectively saying, hey, to improve the quality of our men, we are going to have to collectively stop having these relationships with them until they meet these requirements. And theoretically, that would have a lot of power.
I was going to say, today, do you think if women were to do that men would follow suit? Because I'm a believer as well that it does start with women. Like if we got our act together in certain ways, then men wouldn't be doing certain things, or they wouldn't be how they say that, oh, he's sleeping around with everybody, but he's sleeping around with somebody. Somebody's opening their legs to him. So if we did stop, I feel like a lot of this would stop. A lot of backstabbing. People wouldn't be going behind my back. They would actually, sisterhood could be true. Sometimes brotherhoods could be true because they know that there is a standard that, okay, if she's not sleeping with me, her homegirl or the next woman's not going to either.
Well, typically, I'd say the rule of thumb is anywhere where there's collective mistreatment is an opportunity for a collective response. So, in terms of gender, there's collective systemic mistreatment towards women. One of the stronger ways to address that, one of the most effective ways to address that, is a collective response where women get together and collectively say, "Here's our standard." Take the area of race and racism. The African American population, which is racially labeled as black, is systemically mistreated. But we don't take a collective response in our daily behavior. So if we were to be collective in our response, we would be able to adjust our situation accordingly. So it's all in how we act collectively. This Roe versus Wade is interesting because you have half of the women on one side of the issue, half of the women on the other side of the issue. To me, I see it. I'm not a woman, but to me, the priority would first be, number one, men don't get to tell us what to do. And then number two, let's get our shit together so that men can't divide and conquer us. So ultimately, it does come down to, if you see an area of collective mistreatment, that group who's being victimized, that's their opportunity to say, hey, let's set the standard here. Let's say no more of this, and stand behind it. What do you think about that theoretical strategy?
I agree with that 1,000%. 1,000%. The problem is culturally, as with a lot of things, I think that the current group would have to say, you know what, we lost that war. However, let's set the trend with the next generation, right? And I'm talking about with respect to, like, with the sex conversation, right? Teach the next generation these are the standards and raise them accordingly, because the young men will respond. But in a separate conversation, we would also have to then decide collectively to begin to invest in our young men so that they can be the men, the men of honor and of valor to lead, and to couple with this next generation of women who are going to at least sexually hold themselves virtuous and at least have that standard. But with respect to other things, one of the biggest divides that women deal with, that's not unique to men, is that there's also, even though I think collectively women believe in their reproductive rights, but there's a political divide that runs deeper. It runs deeper than faith in this country, unfortunately. That even though I believe it, even though I believe in reproductive rights, but because my partisan beliefs are so strong, I can't support it. That's the problem. That's the current problem with political beliefs run stronger than faith. If you don't believe me, just go to Georgia and look at the Senate race. I'll leave that there.
Look at what? Yeah, I didn't hear that last part.
That Georgia
What was
Senate
the last
race.
part about Georgia? Oh.
The fact that conservative Christians are supporting Herschel Walker. There's no way in hell, pardon the pun, they should be supporting a man with the character of Herschel Walker. But again, politics run deeper. That's another conversation for another show.
Okay, so shunning premarital sex, cooking. Zuri, what is from your female peer environment? what is today's woman's attitude about cooking for her man?
Well, majority of my friends, I know that they don't mind cooking for their man, but from, like I said, just being around social media and going out and looking at everything, that's a no-go. Like somebody says, even bringing your man a plate is considered a no-go. Or doing
Man,
anything for your man is
yeah.
considered a no-go.
Even bringing
Because
your man a
that,
plate.
yeah, because that goes back to, like he's saying, that growing up, you don't need a man. So, and what is he going to do for me? Can you pay my bills? I said, that's something else I thought of because of what you guys are talking about. But I said that's a lot. Women can submit to everything except the right things.
Ooh.
Like, as he says, we'll submit to, as he says, not accountability, but we'll submit to everything else.
Women can submit to
Like,
everything
submit to good
except the
sex.
right thing.
We'll submit to some great sex by a man, but not the orders or anything else. But if you give me great sex, I'll submit to you. I'll do this because that's what you're providing instead of everything else that comes with the man. They just want to disregard everything else. That those two things are his only value: money and his penis. That's it. And that's them from a very young age as well, because you don't see your father in the house providing, correcting for you, doing everything, being loved, watching a man being loved, seeing your way by a man.
So this sex thing, are women are women into sex for the same level of physicality that men are in it for, or is it a different motivation? Because just to hear you say what you said just kind of blew my mind a little bit with regard to um, women's behavior, sexual attitudes. For men, sex is the motivating factor. Like I quoted you that stat that a man's number one need is sexual fulfillment, and a woman's number one need is security. And I'm wondering today, is that assessment still the same? Yeah. Is that assessment still the same today? Do women still, is that still their number one need? Or is it that women are able to secure their own need for security, that now they don't depend on the man for that? I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there right now.
I think, like what you said, a lot of people feel like since they can take care of themselves, that they don't need the security of a man. But a lot of the times there's other aspects that's missing. There's no balance. So I feel like women, and a lot of times nowadays, like how you said, it all ties into when we was talking about them women being sexually free. A lot of women will have babies by men just to have them, because now babies are checks. The government's going to take care of you. But then again, there's also men that impregnate women so they don't go anywhere. But they say, like, that's a different story as well. But right now we're talking about the women. So I feel like, yeah, the women are in. There's a lot of women that's out there for the right reason emotionally. But then a lot of times the only connection the woman has to the man is through sex. There's no other connection. They're not connecting on any other level. It's just a physical. There's nothing mental. There's nothing spiritually. It's nothing there except for the sex. You make me feel good during sex, but after sex, I hate you. Or you make me mad, I want to hit you with a car. It's crazy. I saw a video where a woman tried to run over her boyfriend or somebody on the curb, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous is an understatement. And we definitely need to start being held accountable for actions like that. Because if the tables were turned, oh my, we all know what would be going on.
Yeah.
Even like with sexual deviance, like women can more so get away with sexually harassing men, and men can't get away with it. Women can sexually harass boys at young ages, like when they're 15, 16. I've seen where grown women have talked about young men in their 15, 16. Ooh, girl, you know what I would do to him? I'm like, excuse me, how old are you again? That's like that's a young man right there, you know? So nobody's holding them accountable for any of that.
So I think that, and again, I have this saying, right? People would rather look, and I stole it from White Man Can't Jump. People would rather look good and lose than look bad and win, right? So women are out here trying to move like men, thinking, they're saying, no, I'm doing it. I am securing the bag. I don't need a man. I can get sex how I want to get it. You know what I'm saying? All I need him for is the penis. So that's how they move. But here's the thing. Women are very particular about who they will sleep with, especially successful women, right? They tend to pick men or try to at least couple with men that are quote unquote valuable, right? But because they're masculine and men aren't needing to commit, the woman still wants that security, right? She will say she wants just the peen, but no, she wants the security because look at the men that she chooses. But those men
Just as
don't
I
want
said,
her,
deep
right?
down.
Right, and so deep down, she really wants security, but she's lying to herself. Why? Because she's got to look good. She's looking good and losing, instead of looking bad and being honest and saying, you know what, I don't want to move this way. I mean, look at how women responded during COVID. Look at the reality checks during COVID when all of a sudden, for the ones that were single, the reality set in of, oh my God, I'm by myself. The world is real out here.
Yeah.
Men are valuable for more than just the P in the pocketbook. And it's and there's older women that come to this realization. There's younger women that experience traumatic situation that realize, oh my goodness, and so to the accountability piece, I could deep dive in that all day long, but I think that that's one of the biggest problems that women are having. They're lying to themselves. They're in denial, and it's hurting them in the long run. It's hurting them.
It does, because a lot of them, when they do hit in their, I would say probably their late 40s, no 50s, since we age so well, in our 50s, then they start thinking like, oh, this is lonely. I wish I would have made a family. Or once you realize and start taking accountability for your actions, sometimes it's too late. Or just how you've talked to men, how you've degraded men, emasculated men, and to the point now it's getting to where men don't even want to protect us. But I don't blame them.
Yeah.
How can you protect people that don't want to follow your lead? They'll lead you right into the action when it could have been avoided. And like they say at the end of the day, like how you guys were talking about protection, if something really goes down, you're not going to call your female friend. Even like if a police officer shows up, if something like, say that you and your male friend or another man is harassing you, you don't want another woman to show up. You want another man to show up to come and protect you.
You know what's funny, or I should say what's funny. What's crazy is that I don't like when like we say black men don't protect us. It is still it's still innate to us, right? It's still instinctual of us to protect women. And just a quick conversation, just note, I'm not gonna say any names to protect the innocent. During when I was dating, I would meet women, 40s, they would, in the 40s, and or even late 30s, and I would listen to them, and you know what? I'll be honest. I felt bad. I honestly felt bad because I'm like,
wow.
First of all, I'm thinking to myself, it's never going to work with us. because your attitude is terrible, and you're just no, it's not gonna work. But I felt bad because it's like life is about people, right? And people should be with other people. But because you have steered so far away from the path, I don't know if you're going to figure it out in time to get back on the path to couple up with somebody. And I legit feel bad. And that's not me being arrogant or speaking down. It's just an observation. Because
Reality
some of the
opinion.
mindsets, it's just crazy. It's like to take it off of women, it's like the young man that's gangbanging, right? This dude has been shot 4 times, he's been to prison 3 times, but he doubling up. When I get out, it's on. It's like, dude,
Yeah, right.
are you
It's too
gonna
late.
figure it out before it's too late? You know?
Now, speaking
And so
of that, there's a person in the chat room, My Connect, and you're kind of hitting right on one of My Connect's themes. My Connect says, actually made a couple of comments. Let me back up first. First, My Connect says, in regard to your earlier assessment, Penny, that the top 10 to 20% of men are successful with women. However, the bottom 80% of men are unsuccessful. And then he moves on to say, women don't mature until their options with men start to dwindle.
Yep.
For a lot of women, that's probably in their late 30s, 40s, and up.
I agree, because you feel that when you're in your 20s, most women are like, oh, I have this body, I'm beautiful. It's always gonna want me, it's not gonna fade away.
Yep. I got
you
time.
know, but there's always the younger ones that come along that, hey, that was once upon a time.
What are your thoughts?
Sometimes it's too late when you become bitter. And instead of maintaining yourself and letting it fade, because I'm not saying all women get old and, let themselves go, which they don't, because there's plenty of women, beautiful women I've seen in their 50s and 60s. They motivate me,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's the ones, like you said, that don't want to take accountability, that think they have it forever, or their looks are going to take them far their whole life. And that's not the case of things. And some men look past looks because they can get a lot of women, and they know that looks is just, hey, what else? What's behind that? Are you empty inside behind those looks?
Looks are a blessing and a curse, whether you're female or male. If you're naturally endowed with physical gifts, sometimes it comes at the expense of your emotional, social skills, emotional intelligence, those type of attributes, because you rely totally on what's outside, which keeps you from really developing to your best the inner qualities of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Penny.
I was gonna say that whole reality setting in, as unfortunate as it is, but if you think about it, women, they will give themselves excuses and make excuses, if for everything, not just with respect to relationship, they have an out, right? My favorite one is when they talk about white supremacy. Not that that's not a legitimate conversation, but they almost make it seem as if men weren't there, black men weren't there with them. So if they're underperforming financially, it's white supremacy. If it's men saying we want a certain standard, oh, you're using the Eurocentric beauty standards against us, and that's not appropriate.
They use it where it fits.
Right. Or you're fat shaming, or you're slut shaming. It's always, they have an out. There's an excuse for everything.
Yeah, I was going to say it's always a problem when the men do it, but when the women do it, everybody all the women jump on the bandwagon. I like to call it the wounded women that all have their trauma bonding, all jump in, and agree with the woman thinking that it's all right, and it's really not.
You ever want to see a group of women turn, right? And they will turn. You can have a group of 50 women, and if you talk about younger women being attractive, the older women say, no, I know young women that don't look that good anymore. And I know a woman that's 40 that looks better than a 23-year-old. Or if you
That's
talk
somebody
about
that's
women with
better.
money, if you talk about a woman that earns well, $100,000 ain't what it used to be, but it's still more than 50, or there's just
Getting
always,
better.
and it's like literally the hit dogs will holler in that group. But the thing about it, they will say, no, it's the men saying these things. I've always said, no, it's not men saying these things. Y'all say these things. Men are pretty consistent. It's y'all. If you don't fit in that group that is being praised, you will zam to hell that group that's being praised and talk about how it ain't what it seems.
Mm-hmm.
True.
All right, so I'm not sure how much headway we made here. We're trying to determine if marriage is if this. Well, let me put it in a question. The topic is marriage a bad deal for men? So far, with everything that we've discussed, we haven't really come across the positives about men marrying today. Do we need healthy marriages today? And let's put it that let's examine that question. Do we need healthy marriages today?
Of course.
Why?
Because
Healthy communities.
healthy community provides structure. There's a lot of things. Yeah. Number one, wealth, generational wealth for our families. We need healthy families, like he says, protection and people knowing their roles. Yeah, we definitely, I would say, with like 3,000, we need healthy families, healthy marriages, and so to provide so our children can see something else. And we need healthy marriages so we can, like I said, provide the wealth and keep creating families, grandbabies, generations and generations of repopulating.
So if we all agree we need healthy marriages, then one of these obstacles to get over are the reasons, these 4 bullet points for why men are not interested, which is number one, sex being without commitment, getting to be the norm. Women are less feminine than before. The automation of wifey tasks and the business side of divorce, where men can just end up taking on financial debt, that they're taking the risk of financial debt. Are these 4 areas up for negotiation, for adjusting in order to get back to that goal of healthy marriages in our community? And if so, where will we start?
So the divorce piece, I think, I don't know that women would legislatively give up their power. I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one. But with respect to the family court laws and how the system is extraordinarily rigged in their favor, but I do think that women that earn more are you're starting to see more and more women on that male side of things. As far as financially losing a lot financially, and so as women earn more, I think that they're gonna open themselves up to more and more liability on that end. But I think that's kind of the waiting for the Roman Empire to fall, right? That took forever to happen, right? But it happened. But I think that over time, as the outcomes for women, this generation of women because I'm always hopeful that the next generation does better. But I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's this generation of women that chose to be employee instead of wife, and the generation after that did that. And as those outcomes, as they start to age, and retire, and the subsequent generations look at them and women specifically and say, you know what, I don't want that. Because the reality is, this idea that they've been taught that they could do it on their own is going to start to play out in the next 20 years, 30 years as we retire.
I was going
And
to say
these
sooner than that.
independent women that thought they were independent begin to learn in your older age, you're not as independent as you thought you were. As you become more, as your health starts to fade, your earning ability starts to decrease, and reality starts to set in. And I think that the younger generation is going to see that, and I believe that they'll make a sea change. Now that's going to take a while.
So
but
you're
I'm
looking at this from an attrition standpoint. You're saying through attrition over a period of time, it will get back to a position of socially healthy relationships.
I think that we'll trend back that way. Marriage is a whole nother conversation. I think that I believe more cohabitation will happen, where people are just going to say, you know what, we need to stick together and do it this way. There's such a pushback against marriage in the Western society. It goes deeper than that. But I do think this new age, this new idea of just cohabitating will be more of a thing, because this go at it alone, I think it will fade through attrition. I would hope that it would fade faster, but I do believe that it'll fade through attrition.
Well, I think this kind of we should what I'm going to say, I think should go to another show discussion. I believe that these statistics we're talking about, these social behaviors regarding the way we're conducting ourselves in relationships, are on some level being orchestrated.
I believe
that we are being directed towards certain behaviors.
I just had that discussion today. I believe that they're trying to do the conquer and divide and keep it that way. And a lot of the narrative that they're saying is really not what's really going on. Like once before, there was a narrative saying that Black men weren't marrying Black women, but it turns out that no, plenty of Black women and men are marrying each other. It's the divide narrative that they have to keep us apart and unhappy, so that we can't create generational wealth and keep us separated and keep repopulating.
And I think that part of the solution is going to have to be a proactive, preventative component, not to rule out the overtime aspect, because that's definitely a part of the process. But some of these things are happening to us, not just happening, but they're happening to us. That's my strong feeling.
I think also,
a systemic level.
Like you said, even if we grab the youth and children at a young age and show them different environments where there are families being happy, there's people being raised totally different from how you were raised, I think that would change the narrative as well, because then they'll look at it differently. Like, I don't have to live this life. There's better things out there for me because I've seen it. I've been a part of it. So this is just my life right now. But I know when it's my turn to leave, that this is what I'm going to aim towards, or this is the path I'm going to take, not the path that you chose to take. So I think it's just really the children grasping it at a young age. At the end of the day, everybody's not meant to be married. Everybody's not meant to have children, but majority of us, yes. And if we start seeing that from a young age, I believe it totally makes a big difference when you grow up as a child, witnessing that from not only your parents, friends, being in healthy relationships. All that plays a part in it, in your reality today, on how you choose to deal with men and women a lot of the times.
And single people are good for the economy. They're great for the economy.
Single people?
Yeah, I feel like everybody
single
has
people are
a
great
role.
for the economy.
Yeah, everybody has a role. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody's is different, We're not all meant to be the same.
So Penn, when you say single people are great for the economy, so we need a balance of married and singles, what you're saying?
No, I'm saying, if I'm a capitalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I push programs or ideas that are anti-capitalist? So, for example, single married couples, that's one mortgage,
right?
That's one set of utilities.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? It's more expensive to be single. That's less people going out to eat.
Right.
If you're pushing traditional values, You're in a sense shrinking the economy. An economy that's built on credit.
Yes.
If you're a couple, right, that's saving, you're less likely to leverage your credit.
Wow.
Which is not good. Our economy is built entirely on credit.
Wow.
Anybody that knows economy 101 will tell you that a recession is, when we contract, that's people not borrowing. They're not borrowing.
Yeah. And you need that interest rate.
Yep.
You need an interest
and it's
rate.
crazy if you think about it.
It is. Yeah. It's such a precarious position to be in, capitalism. Wow. That's deep, man.
Yep.
All right. So look, we're coming up on the time. And I've been trying to think, how do we close this out? So the question, I had a question that just eluded me. Let me take a minute here to gather my thinking, because Penny just blew my mind with that fact that single people, that the economy is really built on credit. That's deep. That's a hell of a rabbit hole to be in. We have to try to stay balanced between being solvent and being in debt to find that sweet spot. But as it pertains to this concept of, is marriage a bad deal? Sex without commitment, women being less feminine, automation of wifey tasks, and the business end of the divorce. Those are some daunting areas that we would have to negotiate in order to reverse this trend of lack of commitment to long-term marriages, which clearly statistically shows that it's more healthy and more financially beneficial. So my question would be, or what I want you all to end the show on, to leave the listeners to meditate on, from which either side, male or female, state your case for why either side needs to adjust their behavior towards healthy marriages. Does that question make sense?
Makes sense.
State your case for whether it's the male or female. State your case as to why either side needs to adjust its behavior to reverse the trend towards healthy, committed, monogamous relationships, marriage. We'll begin with the
Penny?
Queen.
I was going to say go with Penny first. So I wanted to hear what Penny had to say first.
All right, Penny. All right, Penny. I know you're ready to go. State your case, Penny.
So women, this free sex, this easy sex game that you're playing, you've really destroyed. You destroyed the marital market. You destroyed it. The quality, the handful of men that you consider to be quality. There are a ton of men that with respect, first of all, you don't know what quality is. You judge quality based on sex, looks, finances. That does not determine quality. Quality is character. There's a much larger pool of men with character in the general population of men that you ignore over this small group of men that you judge based on your stats, which don't necessarily mean character. I would even argue that group of men that with your characteristics with respect to character is a smaller percentage than the larger male group. But because sex is easy, because you've convinced yourself that you are in control of this conversation, you balance the scales in men's favor. And so the men that would commit especially younger, to build with, have no incentive to do so. They have no incentive to do so. And that men that would love to commit can't. And so when you get to the point that you want to, you're at a loss. You're at a loss. And so if you want to steer toward marriage, quality marriages, and strengthen the marriage, you have to take that off the table. Because in addition to, because people talk about men cheat. No, women cheat just as much as men do. In fact, I would argue they cheat more. I would argue women cheat more. Right? And so if you want to take that off the table and have men of quality prioritize marriage, you would vet as a group, as a collective, a lot better if you stop making sex so easy, because it is easy for only a certain percentage of men, and it's a game that you all are losing, and it's time that you wake up and realize that you're losing that game.
Wow.
I know. Wow.
That was
kind of.
That was deep. That was deep. And you pissed a lot. You pissed a lot of brothers off with that as well too, Penny.
How?
But we've been.
Brothers saying,
I won't go.
Brothers are saying, get him off the air. Don't.
Oh, okay. I know why. Okay.
Cut. Okay, Zuri.
I'm trying to still kind of think of something to say, but to me, for healthy marriages, like I said, I think it all begins just kind of from starting young and seeing what's good. But I know one thing that would definitely change our relationships perspective even before marriage is generally how we speak to one another, men and women, especially us. I feel like we don't even know how to talk to each other. It's the tone and all that. Yes. I think once we just start from learning how to speak to each other, learn that there's differences, we know our role, okay, and say that the man is providing everything. So the man don't throw it up in the woman's face, because like you said, if she's cooking, cleaning, doing whatever, that's right. Everybody as a whole and being collective. And somebody's happy might not be the next person's happy, but whoever your person is, you guys make your happy.
Right.
And if women, like Penny said, if women became more feminine, I think it just has a lot to do with everything in the struggle, and just start holding ourselves accountable for our actions and be what you want to attract. Like you always say, let it flow, be what you want to attract. And if you want to be genuine so you can attract a genuine man.
Be what you want to attract.
Exactly. You have a pure heart, even subconsciously, you'll attract that.
Yes. Yeah, ultimately, our relationships are a reflection of us.
Who we are as a person.
At that point, you're right.
It might be you in a totally different light that you can't even see yourself in.
Right.
But it's you.
Yes. That's deep. My Connect has a couple of statements on you. This is deep. I wish I would have got this earlier, because this is a whole nother area for the conversation to go. But here's what my Connect says. Feminism is the twin sister of white supremacy. Wow.
We support it.
I agree with that.
I agree.
And then my Connect states, feminism is the left wing of white supremacy.
Yes.
So my Connect puts a political angle to this concept, a partisan angle, not political, but a partisan angle to this concept. So we are definitely going to have to pick that up. That is deep. Feminism, a twin sister of white supremacy. And so as the African Americans, African American slaves, descendants of slavery, this feminism thing is playing into a larger dynamic that's working against us, if you take it to heart what my Connect is saying.
it's to me, it's hurt us as a whole ever since we've gotten involved with government assistance, Section 8. All those things have really played a part, a huge part on why things are they are today.
So we're gonna have to come back and address that component. Very deep. Okay. Wow. Deep stuff. Penny, thanks for giving us a tour in your Learjet.
Right?
Flying in.
You still at the airport?
I'm at home.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, he probably got a heliport right there on top of it.
I wish. That'd be nice. One day, George. Speak it to existence, George.
He's got a hover jet. He just flows right over and then just sits right on top and brings it on down. The big dog. Life is good. So hey, Penny, Zuri, you guys have been great. This is a great discussion. Thank you, My Connect, for your contribution. I'm not sure if we're going to have a part 3 of this. I'm not sure if we've vetted this concept out. I think there's still some meat on the bone dealing with this, because this is an important part of our community. The health of our community relies on the health of our relationships.
I would say the uncomfortable truth needs to be done.
And more, the word that keeps coming into my awareness is Ubuntu, which is a cultural African philosophy. Ubuntu, Ubuntu. And it means I am because we are. And we've got to bring that philosophy back into our cultural existence. I am because we are. So on that, it's been great. Have a good week. And until the next time we meet, we'll see you in the black space.